All right, welcome in everyone, kicking off another deep dive here. And today we're tackling something that I'm sure you do all the time, but maybe without even thinking about it too much. I mean, how often do you actually stop and consider how to describe your home, your neighborhood, the city you live in, but being able to do that well in English, I mean, that's a real skill.
It really is. And it's more than just stringing a few words together. We're going to dig into this awesome guide we've got that's full of tips on making those descriptions really sing. So whether you're just chatting with someone new, or maybe you're getting ready to move, or even if you have to write something up for like work or school, this deep dive is going to help you make those descriptions really pop and capture what it's like to actually live in your space.
Yeah, I love how the guide lays everything out. It starts nice and simple with, the place you live in, like what kind of building it is, and then it goes from there out to the neighborhood around you, and then zooms out even more to the whole city. And then after that, it gets into putting all those pieces together and even some tricks to make your descriptions really stand out.
What I find so fascinating is how the guide makes this point that, being able to describe where you live, it's not just about the language. It's also a way to show who you are, how you connect with people, even how you fit into the world around you. I mean, think about it. It comes up in casual conversation, sure, but it's also important for things like real estate, or if you're talking about urban planning. It's everywhere.
Right, it's true. It's kind of woven into so much of our lives. So let's start with the basics, the idea of home. The guide begins with those general terms we use all the time: house, home, residence. Easy enough, right? And then it branches out a bit, gets a little more specific. So you've got apartment, condo, flat. Those are all pretty common. And then for those of us dreaming bigger, there's villa, cottage, bungalow, those words that just sound a bit fancier.
Yeah, and knowing the difference between those terms, it helps you avoid confusion and makes your descriptions more accurate right off the bat. But then the guide jumps into descriptive adjectives, and that's where things start to get exciting. Because this is where you can really get across the feel of a place, not just the facts. Like take the word spacious, for example. The guide puts it in context. The living room is incredibly spacious, with high ceilings and plenty of natural light. You get it right away. It's not just that the room is big, but it feels open and airy.
Yeah, that's such a good point. The detail about the high ceilings and the light, that's what makes you actually feel the spaciousness. And then you've got cozy. I love this one. The guide suggests, I love the cozy ambiance of my little cottage. Just saying that word cozy makes me think of warmth, comfort.
Totally. And it's interesting to think about why certain words give us those feelings. Cozy often goes with smaller spaces, soft textures, maybe a fireplace, all those little details that add up to that sense of being safe and warm. And then on the flip side, you have modern. Like our new apartment features modern design with the sleek, minimalist decor. Very different vibe, you think, of clean lines, maybe newer materials.
Yeah, modern definitely has its own feel. But what if you're somewhere with a bit more history? Then you might use traditional, like the house has a traditional charm with classic furnishings and vintage decor. That suggests a sense of the past and maybe some more, ornate details.
Totally. And then there's luxurious, which is always fun to think about. The guide gives the example. The mansion is luxurious, featuring state-of-the-art amenities and exquisite finishes. Right away, you think of high-end comfort, maybe even a bit of, over-the-top extravagance.
Definitely. And then we've got rustic. I enjoy the rustic appeal of our countryside home with its exposed wooden beams and stone fireplace. That makes me picture natural materials, maybe being out in the country, that connection to nature.
It's so true. And what's fascinating is that a lot of these adjectives have different meanings depending on your culture. Like what one person might find cozy, another might just think is small.
That's such a good observation. It shows how much our own experiences shape the way we see things, even the way we use language. So the guide then moves on to words for different rooms and what they're like. For the living room, it mentions spacious, which we talked about, but also comfortable, open plan, well lit, and elegantly decorated. These words help you describe the size of the room, but also like the feeling you get in there.
Exactly. And then there's the kitchen. You could say it's modern, or maybe fully equipped if it has all the latest gadgets. If it's on the smaller side, maybe it's cozy. Or if it's super high tech, you could go with state of the art. And hey, even rustic could work if that's the style. It really depends on what you're working with.
And bedrooms, well, those are all about comfort and feeling safe, right? So the guide uses words like serene, private, comfortable, of course, bright, or inviting. Those words really capture that idea of a personal retreat.
Right. And then you've got bathrooms. Most people probably think of clean and modern first.
Uh-huh.
But you could also say well-appointed if it has nice fixtures, or even luxurious if it feels like a spa. And then, of course, you can't forget about outdoor spaces. A garden or patio could be lush with plants, vibrant if there are lots of flowers, manicured if it's super tidy, or serene if it feels peaceful. Or you could just call it an outdoor oasis if it's a place where you can really relax and escape.
The guide then brings all this together with a sample description of a house. It says, "My home is a modern apartment located in the heart of the city. The living room is spacious and bright, with floor-to-ceiling windows that offer a stunning view of the skyline. The kitchen is equipped with the latest appliances and features a sleek, minimalist design. My bedroom is my sanctuary, cozy, calm, and decorated in soothing colors that help me unwind after a long day." I think it does a fantastic job of combining all those adjectives we've talked about to paint a really complete picture.
It really does. You get a sense, the style, the light in the living room, the peaceful feeling of the bedroom. It's more than just a list of rooms. It actually gives you a feeling for the place. So now let's step outside the house and talk about the neighborhood. The guide starts with some basic terms like neighborhood, community, district, suburb, urban area, downtown. These are your building blocks, the words that tell people where you are in general.
Exactly. They give the context, and then you add in the details with those descriptive adjectives. Like quiet is a really common one. You might say, "I live in a quiet neighborhood with tree-lined streets and friendly neighbors." It sounds peaceful, right? Like a really nice residential area. Then there's the opposite, bustling. Like the downtown area is bustling with activity day and night. You can almost hear the noise and feel the energy just from that word.
Yeah, bustling definitely has that effect. And then there's charming. Like our neighborhood is charming with historic homes and cobblestone streets. That makes me think of a place with a bit of history, maybe a quaint, cozy atmosphere.
Totally. Or maybe you're in a really trendy spot. The area is trendy with plenty of cafes, boutiques, and art galleries. That tells you it's a more modern, lively scene. And of course, if you have kids, family-friendly is a big one. It's a family-friendly community with parks, schools, and a low crime rate. All the things you look for when you're raising a family. And safe? That's essential. The neighborhood is very safe, with a strong sense of community and low crime statistics.
It's interesting how these adjectives often hint at other things about the neighborhood. Like, if it's family-friendly, you know there are probably good schools and playgrounds nearby. Or if it's trendy, there's probably a good nightlife scene, lots of cool shops. The adjective tells you so much more than just one thing.
So true. The guide then goes on to talk about some key features you might want to mention when you're describing your neighborhood. Things like amenities, parks, schools, grocery stores, restaurants, healthcare, all that good stuff. And then there's transportation. Like, how easy is it to get around? Is there public transportation? Are there major highways nearby? Can you walk places?
Yeah, and then there's the whole feel of the community. Do people know their neighbors? Are there local events and things like that? And of course, you want to think about what it looks like. Is the architecture interesting? Are there lots of trees and green spaces? All of that contributes to whether a neighborhood feels appealing or not.
Right, all those little things add up. And the guide gives another sample description here. It says, "I live in a charming suburban neighborhood that feels like a small town. The streets are lined with mature trees, and there are plenty of parks where families gather on weekends. Local shops and cafes create a vibrant, community-centered atmosphere. The area is very safe and well-connected, with excellent public transportation and easy access to major highways." I mean, you get a really good sense of what it would be like to live there, right?
Yeah, it makes me want to move there.
Yeah.
Okay, so now let's zoom out even more and think about describing a city. The guide starts with those basic terms. City, metropolis, urban area, municipality. These are the words you use to talk about the type of city it is overall.
Right, those are like the foundation. And then just like with houses and neighborhoods, you build on that foundation with descriptive adjectives. So for cities, vibrant is a good one. Like the city is vibrant and full of life with endless cultural activities. That suggests a place with energy, lots going on. Or dynamic, our city is dynamic, always evolving with new developments and innovations.
Oh, and if you're somewhere with a long history, you got to use historic. The city boasts a rich history with centuries-old architecture and landmarks. That gives you that sense of connection to the past. And if it's really diverse, with people from all over, you might call it cosmopolitan. It is a cosmopolitan hub where people from all over the world come together.
Bustling works for cities too, especially when you're talking about the downtown area. Like, the downtown area is bustling with activity, especially during the evenings. Makes sense. And then there's modern, which often focuses on the infrastructure. Like, the city features modern infrastructure with advanced technology integrated into public services.
When you're describing a city, the guide points out some important things to think about. Cultural attractions like museums, theaters, historical sites, festivals, all that. Then infrastructure. How good is the transportation? What about public services? Is the technology up to date? And of course, the lifestyle. What kind of food scene does it have? Entertainment options, shopping, and even the environment is important. Things like green spaces, how the city is planned out, air quality, noise levels.
You're right, those are all really important factors, and they contribute to what makes a city unique. The guide gives a sample city description that says, "I live in a bustling metropolis known for its vibrant culture and modern infrastructure. The city offers a mix of historic landmarks and cutting-edge technology, making it a unique blend of the old and the new. There is always something to do, whether it's exploring world-class museums, dining at trendy restaurants, or enjoying the lively nightlife. The urban planning is thoughtful, with ample parks and green spaces that provide a refreshing escape from the city's fast pace." You can really tell what it would be like to actually live there, right?
Totally. It pulls together all those elements: the culture, the infrastructure, the history, the lifestyle, even the environment. So even though we've got all this great vocabulary now, knowing the words is only half the battle. The guide gives some really helpful advice on how to structure your descriptions so they're clear and easy to follow.
Yeah, the guide breaks it down into three main parts: the introduction, the body, and the conclusion. The intro is all about setting the scene, grabbing the listener's attention right from the start. Like the guide gives this example. "Welcome to my home, a modern urban apartment that combines comfort with style. Today, I'm excited to share with you what makes my living environment so unique." See? Right away, you know what you're going to be hearing about.
And then the body, that's where you get into the details. The guide says it's best to organize this in a logical way. So if you're describing your home, you might start with the inside, then move to the outside, and then finish with the neighborhood. That way it flows naturally.
When you're describing the inside, you'd want to talk about the different rooms, how they're decorated, and the overall vibe or ambiance. Here's the example from the guide. "The living room is a blend of modern design and warm comfort. Large windows fill the room with natural light, highlighting the minimalist decor and a sleek contemporary sofa. A tasteful mix of art and plants adds a personal touch, making the space both stylish and inviting." It's not just a list of things. It describes how they come together to create a certain feeling.
And when you're describing the outside of your place, you might talk about the architecture, any gardens or landscaping, and maybe what's right around it. Here's the guide's example. "My apartment building boasts a modern glass-fronted facade that stands out in the urban skyline. Outside, a small, well-manicured garden with vibrant flowers and neatly trimmed hedges offers a peaceful retreat from the bustling city streets." You can really picture it, right?
Yeah, it's like you're there. And then when you get to the neighborhood or city, you'd focus on the overall atmosphere. What kinds of things are there? Any important cultural stuff? The guide's example is, "The neighborhood is a harmonious blend of residential tranquility and urban convenience. Quiet, tree-lined streets lead to a community park where local families gather, while nearby cafes and boutiques give the area a lively, cosmopolitan feel. The city itself is a dynamic melting pot of culture and history, with art galleries, theaters, and museums scattered throughout its vibrant districts. It shows how all those layers of your environment connect to each other."
And lastly, you've got the conclusion. This is where you wrap everything up and highlight the main points. Here's the example from the guide. "In summary, my living environment is a perfect blend of modern comfort and cultural richness. From the stylish interior of my apartment to the vibrant energy of the neighborhood and city, every element contributes to an inspiring and fulfilling lifestyle." Short, sweet, and to the point.
So we've got the structure down. But how do you make those descriptions really stand out, make them super engaging? The guide has some great advice on that too. And the first tip is to use sensory details.
Yeah, that's key to making your descriptions come alive. Think about what you can see. The soft glow of morning sunlight streams through the curtains. What you can hear. I often hear the cheerful chatter of children playing in the park nearby. What you smell. The scent of freshly baked bread wafts from the bakery down the street. Even what you can feel. The worn wooden banister feels smooth under my hand, and if it makes sense, what you can taste. The local market offers delicious ripe fruits bursting with flavor. Using all your senses makes the description so much more immersive.
Right, those sensory details transport you right to that place. Another great technique the guide talks about is adding personal anecdotes, like sharing a specific memory or experience you've had in your home or neighborhood. It makes your description more relatable, more memorable. Here's an example from the guide. I remember the first time I stepped into my new apartment, I was immediately struck by the light and space. It felt like a blank canvas where I could create my ideal living environment. That day, I spent hours imagining how each room would look and feel, and every detail reflected my personality. It brings that personal touch, you know?
It does. And metaphors and similes can also add a lot of punch to your descriptions. When you compare your living environment to something else, it creates a stronger image in the listener's mind. For example, my living room is like a serene oasis in the midst of a bustling city. Or, the neighborhood is as welcoming as a warm embrace on a chilly day.
I love those examples. It really helps you visualize things. And the guide also mentions something really simple but effective: varying your sentence structure. Instead of using all short sentences or all long ones, mix it up. It makes your description sound more natural and keeps the listener engaged. Like, here's an example: bright, spacious, inviting. These are the words that come to mind every time I step into my living room. With its open layout and modern decor, it's a space that truly feels like home. See how the short sentences at the beginning create a bit of drama before going into more detail.
And finally, the guide talks about using more advanced vocabulary and idioms to elevate your descriptions even further. Words like picturesque for a beautiful scene, opulent for something really luxurious, contemporary for modern, quaint for something charmingly old-fashioned, bustling, which we talked about, or serene for a peaceful atmosphere. And idioms like home is where the heart is, a stone's throw away, which means really close, the heart of the city, or built like a fortress. And there are so many great comparisons you can use too, like saying something is as quiet as a mouse.
It's all about combining these different techniques, using the right words, structuring your description well, adding sensory details, using metaphors and comparisons. All of that helps you convey not just what your home is like, but what it feels like. And I think that's what makes a description really special. So we've covered a lot in this deep dive. We've gone from basic vocabulary for houses, neighborhoods, and cities, to structuring your descriptions so they're clear and engaging, to using vivid language and personal touches to really make them shine.
And it's worth remembering that being able to talk about your living environment well, it's about so much more than just language skills. It's about expressing who you are, connecting with people on a deeper level, and communicating more effectively in all sorts of situations, whether it's just casual conversation or something more formal.
Totally agree. So as you go about your day-to-day, think about your own home and community. What are the sights, sounds, smells, tastes, and textures that really make it special for you? What stories could you share that capture its essence? And how might using more descriptive language help you connect with the people around you?
And here's a thought-provoking question for you to consider as we wrap up. Does the way we choose to describe the places we live shape how we see those places and how we interact with them? And what about the wider world does it affect that too? What does your description of your home say about what you value? And could understanding that help you make decisions in the future or change the way you see things? It's a fascinating connection to explore.